Claude Opus 5 came out today, and if you are on the Pro plan, this one is the one you have been waiting for because it is also available on the Pro plans. You heard that right. So I will show you what the numbers actually say, and then the one claim that I think falls apart for a real job. If you're new here, I am Victor. I built and sold a 50-person company before I turned 25, then worked at Apple, Adobe, and Cisco. Over the past 3 years, I have used AI to run every part of my life. On this channel, I share the exact workflows that I use personally every single day. Now, back to your plan, which just changed today if you're on Pro. So, 5 days ago, I put out a video about Fable 5 becoming permanent, and 67,000 of you watched that thing, which I still quite can't get my hand around. It's mind-boggling, but I did read all the comments and answered as many as I could. And a lot of you guys were on the Pro plans, basically saying, well, nice for you guys, but I'm out. So that's the bit I want to start with, because that's the bit that changed for you guys today. So I'm reading this off their own announcement page, word for word. Opus 5 is the new default model on Macs, and it's the strongest model you can get on a Pro plan. So if you're sitting on Pro right now, you didn't just get a small bump here, you kind of got the top item on the menu. And then there's the price, which is genuinely interesting, even for someone on a Max plan. So if we're looking at input-output costs for Opus 5, you'll be paying $5 in and $25 out for every million token. Now with Fable, you were paying $10 in and $50 out. So on paper, yes, you really are paying half of what you were paying if you used Fable 5. And it's the same price as Opus 4.8, which is the model it's actually replacing. But look, that's just the sticker price. Whether you actually end up paying half is a totally different question, and I'll come back to that. I think that's pretty much the whole pitch in one picture. They're telling you that you get more or less the same result for half the price. And on their own benchmarks, I think they've got a case. So let me just pull a few of those numbers up for you right now. So the first test, and the headline test really, is something called Frontier Bench. And I want to tell you what it is before I show you a single number. It's 74 real jobs with a clock running on each job, and the agent has to hand back something that actually works. So that could be a working database, a trained model. So it isn't just a quiz, and it isn't just a coding puzzle. It's essentially the closest thing we have to, can this finish a real job on its own while you're not actually watching? Which is why I care about this test the most. So as you can see, you got Opus 5 in there at 43% roughly, then GPT 5.6 Sol at 34%, Fable 5 just under 33.7%, and Opus 4.8. So it doubled in essentially 2 months and walked past the model that cost you twice as much. But the best model in the world is finishing 43 jobs out of 100. So 2 out of every 3 jobs still fail. And that's before the 4 boxes where Opus 5 actually loses. So here's 4 boxes where Opus 5 actually came in second place. Really quick. Can it build software? Sol wins that one. Would a person keep that code? A tie. Hard questions with no internet? Also kind of a tie. And legal papers where Fable wins. But look, both are under 14 out of 100 points. So neither can actually be your lawyer, and I wouldn't trust either of them to do that job. However, I keep coming back to one thing here, which is really important. Every single one of these numbers is published by Anthropic about a model that Anthropic themselves built. Now, I'm not saying that makes them wrong, and I want to be clear about that, but I'm just saying that nobody outside the building has actually checked them yet. So in essence, they're basically marking their own homework here, and I'd want someone independent to check that before I call it. So I went and read what other people online who actually ran tests today already were finding, and there's one number that came up 3 separate times. So let's have a look at that. So 3 creators ran real jobs on camera side by side between Opus 5 and Fable 5, with the cost sitting right there on screen. Duncan got both models to build a landing page and an email sequence, and his Opus run came out about 13% cheaper. Then Alex ran a 5-test suite, and he got about 18% cheaper. And Nick finally did a product page, and he got about 27% cheaper. So you're looking at 13, 18, and 27% cheaper, but that's nowhere near the 50% we were promised. So where'd the other half go is the question. Sorry, quick change of scenery. I'm recording this at 3 a.m. in the morning to get the video out to you guys as soon as possible, and my family wasn't super happy about that. But yeah, going back to it, essentially Opus 5 talks a lot more than Fable does, and I think honestly that's the whole answer here, because same prompt on Duncan's test, Fable cost about 17,000 tokens, while Opus 5 on the other hand cost nearly 28,000 tokens, so that's roughly 60% more coming at you, which means that you pay half per chunk, but you get a lot more chunks. And for him, it wasn't only the money. Duncan did say he did prefer Fable's email as well, because Opus got a bit wordy, which I too do agree with looking at the script of this video. Now, the guy who had Opus 5 a whole week was probably the least impressed of anybody. So Dan over at Every ran Opus 5 against their real internal tools, and his line was that it's a hard model to love. He said it kept stopping early on for him, and also telling him that it was done when it really wasn't. It also broke skills they'd already built for older models, and in his words, and I'm quoting here, it's got all of Fable's personality, but nothing of the top end. But then his team actually found something pretty exciting or interesting. Exciting is definitely the wrong word here, but something no one expected. It actually turns out that Opus 5 gets better when you make it think less. So turning it down from max or high to the medium or low setting actually makes it better. Dan himself, from the previous slide, said that almost all of his testing was done up on the high or max setting because he just assumed that hard tasks needed more thinking, which anyone would assume, right? Which, when you say it out loud, I mean, it sounds completely backwards. So I went looking for someone outside of the building to back this up as well. And it turns out Zapier published something kind of like that, a leaderboard, I guess I could say, that isn't Anthropic's. So Opus 5 on medium effort actually scores higher than Opus 5 on high effort, and it costs you less per task. But the bit that really got me here is this one. Opus 5 on its lowest setting still beats Fable 5 on its highest setting. That's a 22% against 70% for about a third of the money, so that's pretty good. So I guess it turns out that the thing you want to be turning in 2026 probably isn't the model name anymore, but instead the dial of how hard the model is thinking. Dan landed on the same thing, and so did 4 separate people in other people's or other creators' comments fields. So turn it down to medium, maybe even low, and you'll probably get more or less the same answer or better for less money, which kind of leaves us with one obvious question. What is Fable 5 even used for nowadays when we have Opus 5? And their own answer here, Anthropic's that is actually pretty honest, I think. They're saying that Opus 5 is for jobs that have an end. One clear task and you check it when it's done. And Fable 5, on the other hand, is for long tasks, where it runs for days on its own and no test can really measure that. And in today's test, Fable still won on taste. Shorter emails, better judgment, and Fable still got a job. I don't think it's going to go out the window anytime soon, but it's just a very expensive way for you to do the everyday stuff right now. So for me personally, I'm going to go Opus 5 all the way. I think it fits my use case more than enough as a non-technical builder guy. And I guess one more slide here on numbers, because it's my favorite number of the day. There is an independent index that ranks every single model in the world, and Opus 5 went straight to the top of it, which is really cool actually, and it did it by just one single point. So that's 61 against Fable 60. Then you got GPT 5.6 Solon 59 and Kimi K3, which landed last week, and which you can literally download yourself theoretically, even if your hardware probably can't support it on 7. So that's of course a lot of numbers, and I'll end at this one. I mean, what does this all mean for us? Essentially, we have 4 of the best AI models in the entire world sitting within 4 points of each other. And honestly, that part is the one that actually matters to me. 4 points apart and a new model landing essentially every week. It's pretty exciting times to be alive, and I think we have a lot of cool things to look forward to. But I'll also let you know, because there's new stuff landing so often, I have been on the wrong side of that. So let me share a quick story on that. So for about a year and a half, everything I knew lived inside one single LLM, ChatGPT. And moving it all over to Claude took me days. I still can't tell you exactly what I lost in there, but there was definitely a lot of stuff. but it was super annoying. So I'm really not doing that to myself again, which is why I don't really pick a winner on launch day anymore. I just keep my stuff somewhere where any LLM model I used for the time being can actually read my context and understand who I am. And that actually brings me to the thing you can go and do this week. So the action for this video, yes, even for a news video, I want to have actionable takeaways. So don't take my word for any of this, and please don't just take Anthropic's word either, because that could be a little bit biased, right? Just go and run your own test on the work that you actually prefer doing yourself. It takes you about 10 minutes, and then you have your own answer instead of listening to someone else's chart, whether that's Anthropic's or some random creators or even me. So I wrote 3 separate prompts for it. You paste the same one into 2 separate models. Each of them builds you a little scorecard page with a number on it, and then you compare your 2 numbers. So that's Opus 5 against Fable, Opus 5 against GPT Soul, Opus 5 against Opus 4.8, or whichever one you want to do, right? So you can see whether the upgrade is actually worth it and real in your world and for your use cases. I called it, very conveniently, the Model Bake-Off Kit. It's of course free of charge, and you have a link in the description below if you want to check that out. And on Monday, I am putting out the bigger one. It's a system that I have been having underneath everything I'm doing and everything I've just said to you. All my knowledge, all my files living in one unified local folder on my laptop that any model can actually reach. So I can use Claude today, I can use ChatGPT tomorrow, and I can even use Kimi next month with nothing for me to move. I have all my context and all my knowledge and everything AI knows me in one single place. I've been running this system since July 6th, and I'm giving the whole thing away. No paid communities, no courses, just the files. So stay tuned and subscribe for that on Monday. So if you're on the Pro model, you got the best model Anthropic sells, and honestly, I think that's a bargain, and that's the real good news for today. Half the price is true on the sticker, but on real jobs it landed closer to 15-30%. So go and turn your effort dial down to medium, and also remember that every number I gave you came from the company that also made the model. So go and check it for yourself. The Bake-Off Kit is below in the description, entirely free of charge. And on Monday, I will show my entire folder on how my system is set up and also give that away for free. See you then. Bye.